The sun's reflection danced on the crystal-clear water, turning it into a vast shimmering expanse as far as the eyes could see. Alan, the group's unofficial leader, expertly navigated the yacht, feeling the familiar thrill of being at sea. They had all been eagerly anticipating this vacation, a brief escape from their mundane routines. Elsa was sunbathing, her skin glistening with sunscreen, while Claire strummed a tune on her guitar. Becca was engrossed in her book, occasionally peeping over her sunglasses to watch Dave as he tried his hand at fishing, more for the fun of it than the actual catch. The plan was simple. Sail around, drop anchor at some picturesque islands, and return home rejuvenated. However, things began to change around midday. The yacht's GPS, which had been functioning perfectly, started glitching, indicating they were simultaneously in multiple locations. Must be some sort of interference, Dave mused, adjusting the device. But as minutes turned into hours, the skies took on a peculiar shade of gray. The playful waves became unpredictable. Alan's attempt to steer them back to familiar territory seemed futile. They were lost, with the compass needle spinning erratically. The mood on board shifted palpably. Elsa's radiant glow dulled. Claire's fingers paused on her guitar strings, and Becca put away her book, her gaze now fixed on the uncertain horizon. Evening approached, and with no land in sight, anxiety crept in. The group huddled together, attempting to decipher their maps, but everything seemed alien. As night fell, the water around them started to glow eerily. Bioluminescent algae, Claire suggested, trying to lighten the mood. But the glow wasn't consistent. It pulsed as if the sea itself was beckoning them. Suddenly the radio, which had been silent, crackled to life. Instead of the expected weather updates or distress channels, a haunting lullaby played, sung by voices that seemed neither of this world nor the next. The mesmerizing tune was familiar yet strange, beautiful yet chilling. As the song faded, the radio echoed a chilling warning, whispered in a voice that seemed to come from the very depths of the sea. Beware the island that moves. Elsa clutched Claire's arm, her face pale. Did we just hear a ghost broadcast? But before anyone could answer, an island shadow loomed in the distance. The hope of finding refuge overshadowed their fears. They steered towards it, unaware that this was just the beginning of a journey that would challenge their sanity, their friendship, and their very will to survive. As the yacht anchored a few meters off the island's rocky shore, the night enveloped them in a thick silence, interrupted only by the soft whispers of the wind and the distant, mournful call of a night bird. Eager to figure out their location, Alan switched on the radio again, this time in search of local channels. Between static-filled intervals, he found one, a voice, slow and raspy, narrating tales that seemed more like warnings. In the embrace of these waters, ships have vanished, leaving behind tales of dread, the voice began. They speak of an island, one that appears and disappears with the tide, holding within its core the remnants of yesteryears, a testament to its insatiable hunger. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. Claire's fingers drummed nervously on her guitar, while Becca clutched her book, though not reading, her eyes wide with trepidation. The island is alive, the voice continued. Its breath the ebb and flow of the tide, its heartbeat the rhythmic dance of bioluminescent waves. It whispers to those lost at sea, luring them with promises of safety, only to ensnare them in a timeless embrace. Elsa shivered, pulling her blanket tight around her. This sounds like some old sailor's lore, doesn't it? Dave, trying to lighten the atmosphere, laughed. Probably some local radio show. You know, like those campfire horror stories. But Alan wasn't so sure. He kept listening as the voice recounted tales of ships, from wooden caravels to steel vessels, all of which had found their doom upon the shifting sands of the island. The voice spoke of sailors driven mad by haunting lullabies, of shadows that moved independent of their owners, and waters that reflected not the sky, but a swirling abyss of lost souls. And if you're hearing this, the voice finally whispered, its tone ominous, know that the island has chosen you and it will not let go. The transmission abruptly ended, replaced by an unsettling static. Claire attempted a tune on her guitar, trying to dispel the thick tension, but her notes were overshadowed by the island's distant hum, almost as if it was singing back to her. Becca, always the curious one, mustered a brave face. Well, if the island has a tale, we might as well hear it firsthand. And with that mix of trepidation and determination, the group decided to step ashore come morning, little knowing that they were about to become part of the very tales they'd just heard. Morning greeted them with a sky painted in muted hues of pink and gold. The island, which had seemed so ominous the night before, now appeared serene, its dense forests casting shadows on the pristine beach. Dave was the first to set foot on the island, followed closely by the others. The sand felt oddly warm, pulsating slightly beneath their feet, as if in tune with their heartbeats. They made their way towards the forest, hoping to find some sign of civilization or, at the very least, clues to navigate their way back home. But the deeper they ventured, the stranger things became. Claire, who'd been trailing her fingers along the bark of the trees, suddenly pulled back, her hand smeared with a sap that glowed faintly. Upon contact, the sap seemed to hum softly, and Claire, entranced, began to hum back, her tune melding seamlessly with the island's song. Meanwhile, Elsa found herself standing before a lagoon, its waters so clear they mirrored the sky perfectly. But as she leaned down to touch its surface, the reflection changed, showing her not the present, but a myriad of scenes from the past, ships wrecked, men and women screaming, and shadows dancing in a macabre rhythm. Startled, she stepped back, only to find Becca examining curious artifacts scattered around. Old compasses, torn pieces of maps, and trinkets that seemed to span various epochs. Each artifact hummed with a story, some of warmth, but most echoing with despair. Alan, always the pragmatic one, tried to rally the group. We need to stick together and find a way off this island. But the island wasn't done with its siren call. As they walked, they came across a clearing with 5 stone statues. The figures, eerily lifelike, seemed to be in various states of emotion: joy, sorrow, shock, and despair. But what sent chills down their spines was the uncanny resemblance each statue bore to one of them. Dave, trying to shake off the creeping unease, joked, "Looks like we've become local celebrities already." But the humor was lost on the group, each grappling with the growing realization that the island wasn't just alive. It was sentient and deeply aware of their every move. Night began to fall, and the island transformed again. The once benign forest now whispered secrets, shadows merged and twisted, and the soft humming became a chorus of voices, beckoning them further into its embrace. Claire's voice, the most entrancing of them all, led the group to a cavern. Its entrance was framed by bioluminescent flora, the very source of the island's glow. They felt an overwhelming urge to enter, drawn by an unseen force. And as they delved deeper into the cavern, they realized that the island didn't just want to tell them its tales. It wanted them to be a part of its never-ending story. Inside the cavern, the walls pulsed with an ethereal glow, illuminating a vast chamber filled with delicate stalactites and stalagmites. But what drew their attention were the clusters of crystal formations, each emitting a soft, haunting melody, reminiscent of the very lullaby they had heard on the radio. Claire, entranced more than any of them, began to play along with her guitar. Her fingers moved deftly, her voice harmonizing with the cavern's melancholic tune. It felt as if she was not just playing music, but also unraveling an ancient story. A story of longing, of souls lost and trapped. Elsa, ever attentive to her friend, noticed a shift in Claire's demeanor. The usually vibrant eyes now appeared distant, and her strumming, while beautiful, bore an undertone of despair. "Claire?" Elsa ventured cautiously, placing a hand on her friend's shoulder. But Claire continued to play, her gaze fixed on a particular crystal formation that shimmered brighter than the rest. Drawn to it, she moved forward, her fingers now brushing the crystal's surface. The moment she touched it, the entire chamber reverberated with an intensified melody. The group watched in horror as Claire's form began to dissolve, her essence being drawn into the crystal. Her fingers, still clutching the guitar, were the last to fade, leaving behind only the faintest echo of her lullaby. Alan, in a desperate attempt, lunged forward, but Dave held him back. "It's too late," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. The cavern had claimed Claire, absorbing her into its timeless symphony. Becca, her voice trembling, managed to piece together what had just transpired. The island feeds on stories, on emotions. It lured us here, and now, Claire has become a part of its eternal narrative. A heavy silence settled upon them as the weight of their situation became clear. They were not just stranded, they were ensnared in a web spun by an island that hungered for stories, for souls. Elsa, her eyes fixed on the crystal that now contained Claire's essence, made a solemn vow. "We will find a way out. We will reclaim Claire's story and ensure none of us become mere tales whispered by this cursed land." and with a newfound resolve, the remaining friends ventured deeper into the island, hoping to unravel its secrets and, in the process, save one of their own. The group's determination to reclaim Claire led them through the labyrinthine tunnels of the cavern. Every path was illuminated by the soft glow of the bioluminescent flora, which now felt less enchanting and more foreboding. Elsa, burdened with the weight of losing Claire, felt the island's whispers most acutely. Every shadow seemed to beckon her. Every echo held a secret. Her thoughts were consumed by a singular desire to see Claire again, to hear her laughter, her music. As they moved deeper, Elsa began to hear a distinct voice, one that was unmistakably Claire's. It called out to her, guiding her towards a secluded chamber. Without a second thought, Elsa followed the sound, leaving the rest of the group behind. Upon entering the chamber, Elsa was met with a sight that left her both overjoyed and horrified. Before her stood Claire, or at least an illusion of her. The figure was ethereal, its edges shimmering like a mirage. But her eyes, those were Claire's, filled with sorrow and longing. "Claire?" Elsa whispered, reaching out to touch her. The illusion smiled sadly, her voice echoing around the chamber. "Elsa, you need to leave. The island. It wants to keep us here forever." Elsa, tears streaming down her face, replied, "We're not leaving without you." As she spoke, the chamber began to shift. The walls closed in, and the once clear path was now obscured by thick vines and thorns. The illusion of Claire began to fade, replaced by countless other apparitions, each a memory of the island's past victims. Becca, Alan, and Dave, realizing Elsa had wandered off, frantically searched for her. Following the faint echoes of Elsa's voice, they finally stumbled upon the chamber, now a twisted maze of memories and illusions. Alan, ever the voice of reason, shouted, "We need to focus, remember our goal, save Claire, save Elsa, and escape." Becca, holding on to Dave for support, began chanting a mantra she'd read in one of her ancient folklore books. The chant was said to ward off illusions and malevolent spirits. As her voice rose, the apparitions began to waver, their forms becoming less defined. Seizing the opportunity, Dave lunged forward, cutting through the vines with a pocket knife. As each vine fell, the illusions weakened, revealing Elsa, who was now entrapped in a cocoon of roots and thorns. With combined efforts, they managed to free Elsa, who, though shaken, was unharmed. The chamber, having lost its power, became silent, the illusions now mere wisps of smoke. Elsa, clutching Becca's hand, whispered, "Thank you." The ordeal in the chamber had solidified one thing. Their bond was stronger than any malevolent force. With two of their friends at risk, the group knew they had to outwit the island, confront its core, and rewrite the ending of their story. The island seemed to grow increasingly resentful of the group's resilience. The environment shifted from its previously mesmerizing beauty to a much darker, ominous landscape. Trees, previously full of life, now looked gnarled and twisted, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The gentle hum of the island became a low, threatening growl. As the group traversed the treacherous terrain, Dave, who had been the backbone of the team, grew more introspective. Every step he took seemed heavier than the last. His usually bright eyes clouded with a mix of fear and determination. The group soon came upon a steep descent that led to what appeared to be the very heart of the island. The chasm exuded an almost palpable aura of malevolence, but it also seemed to be their best shot at uncovering the island's secrets. With ropes they had in their backpacks, the group decided to descend into the abyss. Dave volunteered to go first, wanting to ensure it was safe for the others. But as he descended, a thick, inky fog enveloped him, obscuring him from the view of the others above. Down in the chasm, Dave found himself not on solid ground, but adrift in a dark void. Visions began to materialize around him. His deepest fears and regrets played out like a macabre theater. He saw his past mistakes, missed opportunities, and moments of weakness. At the core of these visions was a dark, shadowy figure, the very embodiment of the island's consciousness. It spoke in a voice that was both alien and familiar, a voice that had been whispering to them since their arrival. "Why do you resist, Dave?" it hissed. "Embrace the peace of the abyss. Become one with the stories of the ages." But Dave, drawing strength from his love for his friends and his determination to see them safe, shouted back, "We are not your tales to tell. We will not be another of your lost stories." As he defiantly confronted the entity, the rest of the group, sensing his distress, began pulling him up with renewed vigor. Their combined willpower acted as a beacon, guiding Dave back from the void and into the light. When Dave finally emerged, he was visibly shaken but resolute. He recounted his ordeal, describing the visions and the island's attempt to subdue him. Elsa, her voice filled with gratitude, said, "We won't let this island tear us apart. Together we're stronger than any nightmare it can conjure." And with Dave's descent illuminating the true nature of their foe, the group prepared for their final confrontation with the malevolent heart of the island. As the oppressive atmosphere of the island thickened, it was Alan's analytical and unyielding spirit that kept them grounded. He began piecing together the fragments of stories they'd encountered, from the shipwrecks to Claire's lullaby to Dave's haunting visions. "It's all connected," he mused aloud. "The island doesn't just feed on our fears but our stories. It twists them, making them its own, forever binding the storyteller." Becca, her researcher instincts kicking in, interjected, "It's like a parasitic relationship. The island sustains itself by consuming narratives, making them tragic, ensuring they end here." Their understanding of the island's motive brought clarity but also heightened the peril. Each member of the group held a story, a tale yet to be concluded. If they wished to leave with their stories intact, they needed to confront the island's core, the epicenter of its power. Alan, with a grim determination, declared, "I have a plan, but it's going to require all of us working together." Drawing in the sand, he laid out a strategy that would lead them to the heart of the island, where they believed they could reverse the island's influence and free Claire. As they neared the core, the environment changed drastically. The ground pulsed like a beating heart, and the once distant whispers became an overpowering cacophony of voices, all clamoring to be heard. Amidst the chaos, a towering monolith stood, radiating an eerie light. This, they realized, was the island's heart, the nexus of its power. Alan instructed the group to join hands, forming a circle around the monolith. "We need to drown out the island's voice with our own," he urged. "We must weave a new narrative, one of hope, unity, and defiance." Elsa began by singing a soft tune, one that spoke of friendship and brighter days. Becca recited lines from old tales of heroes and triumphs. Dave, finding his voice, spoke of their journey, of their struggles and determination. But it was Alan's voice that rose above all, steady and unwavering. "We are not your prisoners," he declared, addressing the island directly. "We won't let our stories end in despair. We choose hope, love, and life." The combined power of their words and emotions created a force that overwhelmed the monolith. Cracks began to form and the once vibrant glow dimmed. With a final surge of energy, the monolith shattered, releasing a blinding light. When the dust settled, the island was transformed. The eerie atmosphere was replaced by a calm serenity. At the center of where the monolith stood, Claire emerged, dazed but unharmed. The island's curse was broken. The souls it had trapped over the ages were freed, their stories finally given the chance to find their own endings. The group, tired but victorious, embraced Claire. They had faced the unimaginable and emerged stronger, their bond unbreakable. And as they sailed away from the now silent island, they knew they had not just saved themselves, but had rewritten the narratives of countless souls that had come before them. Their tale was one of hope, of the indomitable human spirit and the power of shared stories. The serene waters surrounding the island now glistened under a golden sun. The group's hastily repaired boat glided smoothly, making its way back to the open sea. But as they distanced themselves, they couldn't shake off the sensation of being watched. Dave, looking back at the receding shoreline, murmured, "It feels different. Not malevolent, but still very much alive." Claire, her fingers strumming a gentle melody on her guitar, replied, "It's like the island has been awakened, not just appeased." Becca, ever the scholar, pondered aloud, "Maybe the island wasn't entirely evil. Perhaps in its own twisted way it was just trying to communicate, to share its vast repository of stories." Elsa, her gaze fixed on the horizon, added, "But it got lost in its own narrative, overwhelmed by the tragedies it absorbed." Alan, steering the boat, smiled wryly. "A cautionary tale for all storytellers, I guess. The stories we tell shape us, but we should never let them consume us." As the distance between them and the island grew, a soft, melancholic tune began to play. It wasn't Claire's guitar, but emanated from the island itself. It was a hauntingly beautiful melody, one of longing and gratitude. The island, in its unique way, was bidding them farewell, thanking them for the lessons they had imparted. For in their defiance and unity, the group had shown the island the essence of a true story, one where darkness and despair can be overcome by hope, love, and perseverance. As the tune faded and the island became a mere speck on the horizon, Elsa whispered, "Goodbye, storyteller. May you find peace in the tales you keep." And with that, the group sailed into the vast expanse of the ocean, their own story forever intertwined with that of the island, a testament to the enduring power of human spirit in the tales we tell. In the shadows of the night, if our tales from unsettling horror stories gave you a fright, press like and let it be known. Subscribe, so you're never alone in this haunting journey, and share, so others too can be wary. Until our next sinister tale, stay dark, dear listener.